process for how to do joint problem solving with your teens. And then inshallah we'll end at 9:30 your time, inshallah, bismillah. So moving on, first question, and please go ahead and respond in the chat, and hopefully I'm going to be able to see that, unless someone is willing to actually read for me what's in the chat. Is there anyone who is willing to volunteer to
Yes, sister, I can do that for you, inshallah.
Okay, do I need to stop the share so you can see the chat?
No, I can see the chat.
You can see the chat. Okay. Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead, and as you are, actually I'm gonna share, let's see, I'm gonna share another screen. Let's see how this goes. Okay. So, so what are some of the challenges that you guys face in terms of how they communicate to you? So we're looking for the challenges in communication. And go ahead and write in the chat, and Brother Rami will read them for me, and hopefully I can write as he says them to me.
The first one is respect.
So is this a challenge? Like, I mean, or do they mean they disrespect? So I'm guessing that the challenge is that they actually communicate with disrespect. Okay.
Yes, he affirms that, yeah, the lack of respect or disrespect.
Okay. Yeah. And the more specific we are in their in the challenges, the better it is for us. What else?
Not talking and being very quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Next was emotional or rude.
Oh, okay. Rude is very good, actually, because it's very specific. Okay.
Getting them to enjoy or value family time.
Say, please, can you say that again?
Getting them to enjoy or value family time.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Selective hearing.
Okay.
Communicating with nerves or fear.
Communicating with nerves.
Yeah, or fear. I'm guessing they're nervous or fearful.
Okay. Okay.
Talking back.
Mm-hmm.
Have them being open with their parents.
So they're not open.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Resistance to many orders. So I guess not following commands or.
Okay.
Again, speaking disrespectfully.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
The next one is about their interests. So only interested in like video games, for example, not having interest in anything else. So preoccupation, I guess, with certain things.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Any more?
I'll throw one in. I think not having trust in their parents. I think teenagers typically trust their friends and not their parents.
Mm-hmm. Let's say us, because we are all here parents. Okay. Okay. So instead of switching screens, so the next slide I have is what do you wish for from your teens in terms of like how would you like them to communicate with you? Yeah. And again, please go ahead and let's do it in the chat.
father typing, obviously the first one I think would be to be respectful. I said while they're typing, I'm sure that one of the first ones is to be respectful to their parents.
Okay, so respectful, the respectful communication.
Honest and truthful. Next one was similar, it was open and honest. Having no attitude.
Okay.
Positive focus. Able to trust their parents. So trust, yeah. Valuing family time. Kindness and empathy.
Kindness. Anything else?
Still waiting.
Okay, so let's move to the next column. So I really would like you guys to be very honest and tell me, how do you communicate with your teens?
If we don't have teens yet, can it be how do we communicate with our kids?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah. This is Mariam.
Yeah.
Mariam. I saw your name. I'm like, okay. Mariam, yes. Go ahead.
I'm gonna mute quickly so you don't actually hear the kids in the background.
That's okay. Shukran, Mariam. Yes, indeed.
Okay.
How about yelling? One says fair but firm.
Fair but firm.
Generally one-to-one in private, but not always. Respectfully. Firmly is repeated again. I think sometimes we can also talk down to them. Losing temper. So anger, I guess. How about like a threatening dynamic?
Yes. That
not so much educational, but if you don't do this, this was gonna happen.
Threats, yeah.
Flip-flop between calm and patient and short and angry, depending on how I feel.
So say that again, sorry.
Flip-flopping between calm and patient and short and angry, depending on how I feel.
I really appreciated this response from whoever wrote it. Thank you. Jazakumullah khair, because that's the reality of our life. I mean, we're not angels. so I really appreciated the connection also with the feelings. And we're not going to be angels. So I'm just going to say it from now. Okay. We are human beings. We're going to make mistakes. We're not always going to be, mashallah, these respectful and cool. And we're going to do mistakes with our teens. I think we don't give them enough space like we give ourselves space. Anything else, Brother Rami?
That was the last one.
Okay. Jazakallah khair. So any reflections on the 3 columns that we actually have created? So we created a column about what are some of the challenges that we see in our communication with our teens, and then what do we hope for, what do we wish for, and then the last column is how do we as their parents communicate with them. So any reflections on what you or any observations? And if someone wants to unmute and speak, please go ahead. Don't worry if you don't want to write in the chat.
Was the question, sorry, can you say it again? No.
The question is, any reflections or observations about the 3 columns that we created together?
Well, just it got me thinking about like what we're wishing for versus how we are actually doing it, and how like I couldn't help but ask myself, am I modeling what I'm wishing for, basically, or not? That's the first question I was thinking.
Thank you. Thank you, Mariam. Jazakallah khair.
Okay.
And when we are reflecting on ourselves, if we are actually modeling what we are wishing for our teens to do, the idea here is, again, not to be perfect and not to make mistakes, but in general, if we look at our interactions with our children, are they mostly on the positive side? Are they mostly on the respectful, open and honest, and no attitude and positive focus? And do we even trust them? Do we value family time? Are we extending kindness and empathy ourselves? So if all of this is happening more, way more than the, if you will, negative interactions, then you definitely are modeling all of this. So I'm gonna stop the screen here, this screen, and share actually another screen, the other screen, because I want to share something with you just very quickly. I know it's not the focus of today's session, but I just want to remind you that there are so many things going on in the teens year. So all of you know the hormones are raging, they are adjusting to a new developmental stage. Their brain is still maturing. Their brain is still forming. And the most important piece in the brain development that is happening in the teen years is the prefrontal cortex, which is right here, right behind the forehead. And this one does not finish developing until the age of 25, and in some people about 30 years of age. So, and the prefrontal cortex is the one that is actually responsible on making making the rational and logical decisions about controlling one's behavior rationally. And so just understand that your teens are still, their brains are still developing. And in this particular slide, it shows us the differences in the connections between the neurons in the brain at birth, at 6-year-old, and at 14-year-old. During the teen years, what is happening a lot is there's a lot of pruning happening. And what do we mean by pruning? Like all the connections that are not being used, they are cut off. And new connections, and if they are being used a lot in the teen years, then these are being reinforced. And that's why I personally, as a therapist, I'm so worried about what teens are addicted to in the teen years, because that becomes a very strong pathway, neural pathway for them. So, so just to be aware and having understanding and kindness to all the emotional agitation that they go through. And I'm going to also ask you, each one of you, as it go back to your teen years, think about your teen years. Do you remember yourself experiencing mood swings and, you know, sometimes feeling upset for no reason, and sometimes feeling full of rage? I'm sure if I were to ask each one of you, every single one of you would tell me yes. The only difference is we live in a culture right now, and I'm talking about the global culture. I'm not talking about the American culture. The global culture right now emphasizes individuality and emphasizes that kids, they say to their parents, I have a right, and this is what I think, and I don't really need to listen to you. This is a global culture right now. It's not specific to America. So teens, because some people tell me, well, yes, I experienced all these emotional rages when I was a teen, but I respected my parents. Yeah, of course you respected your parents because that was the culture around you. That was what you heard from everyone around you in your society, or even your friends would tell you that. None of your friends would tell you, oh no, yell and scream at your parents. That wasn't heard of. Nowadays, our teens, they go and speak to their friends and their friends tell them, oh, poor you. Oh, your parents really don't understand you. Oh yeah, and you have a right to speak your mind. Not to mention, I'm not even talking about social media, and I'm not even talking about TV shows and cable shows and Netflix, what's on Netflix and what messages are being sent to the teens. And this one is very quickly also a reminder in terms of the psychosocial developmental stages of humans. For teens, we have two specific tasks that teens are actually doing. From age 12 to 18, they are focusing on group identity, and that's why you see them focus so much on their friends. And it is important for us to understand that and not to try and minimize it. What we need to focus on is how to provide maybe some positive peer groups where we feel that the teens we will connect with friends that we admire their values. The second stage is the 18 to 24, and psychologists and sociologists nowadays are calling it the later adolescence because everything has been delayed. So during those years, and those are the years of college years, and the teens are usually in those years are focusing on individual identity. And that's why in our Muslim community nowadays, we are seeing sometimes some young adults, they go to college and they start questioning Islam. That's all part of the individual identity. What do I believe in? So I just wanted to highlight these basic ideas about what is going on with teens, just to increase our empathy for their situation. But that doesn't mean we need to be okay with them being disrespectful with us. So we did this one, we did this one.
Sister,
Yes.
there was a request to see the slide before the one you just had one more time.
The one with the developmental stages.
I believe so.
Okay. Mm. This one. This one. Is there a question?
Assalamu alaikum. I'm sorry, the one before it, please.
The one before this one. Okay, the one with the neurons?
Yes, please.
This one.
No, the one right underneath that one.
This one. I didn't share this one with you guys.
Oh.
But since you asked for it.
Sorry, I was trying to read it.
Okay.
Thank you.
But this one is basically imaging, showing where are the different brain areas, when do they become active, when do they become mature. So they are just highlighting for us, again, what I said in another slide, that the prefrontal cortex is the last area in the brain to mature. And this is what they call the executive functions of the brain. Like, think about it as the president. Alhamdulillah, right now we have a new president, alhamdulillah. But when we had our previous president, and he had all these executive functions in his hand, all these executive powers in his hand, he was controlling the country in an unacceptable way. And that's what happens if the executive functions of the brain are not functioning very well. The behaviors are not going to be healthy, they're not going to be appropriate. So just wanted to emphasize the later development and maturation of the prefrontal cortex. Moving on. Yes. Oops. Okay. So, so we are today again focusing on communication, and to have a productive communication, it has to be a two-way street. So I am going to invite you to take a minute right now, and this is for yourself. I'm not going to ask you about it. And I want you to think of an instant where you actually did not like your communication with your teen? And now I would like you to analyze this instant and check and see which one of these blocks and barriers do you engage in your life and in your interactions with your children, because each one of these is a block to connection, is a block to communication. So are you the type of parent who feels that you need to fix everything that goes wrong because you believe it's your responsibility to fix the mistakes, and you don't allow your children to grow by fixing their own mistakes? And typically a parent who does this ends up with very fragile adult children because they have never learned how to take care of themselves, how to take care of their life. Or are you the type of parent who is always driven by the fear of what others might think? And what is more important is looking good in the community rather than actually doing what is best for you and the family. And unfortunately, we have this in high numbers in our community because we do care so much about looking good in front of other parents and in front of the other community members. Or are you the type of parent who believes that you are responsible to protect your teen from all pain? And again, this one also, if you are that type of parent who actually does everything for your teen so they don't have to worry about anything, you remove all obstacles from their pathway, they also don't learn to be independent and capable and competent. Or are you the type of parent who actually is so scared of anger? And so when your teen starts to actually yell and scream and intimidate you, and in some situations, our teens are actually taller and bigger than us, and they can very easily intimidate us. So are you the type of parent who is scared of handling anger, and so you give up, or you give in, or you do whatever it is to avoid the wrath of your teen? So this actually sends the wrong message about anger to the teen. Basically, it tells them, you know what? I can use my anger to manipulate people. And can we imagine a teen that chooses anger as a way of communication? What kind of employee is he or she going to be? Or what type of spouse is he or she going to be? Or are you the type of parent who believe that you have to give everything in your life to your children, and you need to sacrifice, and you don't need to have a life? And so you're overexhausted, you're overwhelmed. And also typically what I hear when the kids grow up is, I sacrificed all my life for you. Why are you doing this to me? You should, love me enough as much as I, did all these sacrifices for you. So this is just for you to kind of like have a check-in with yourself and see if you actually engage in one of these blocks or barriers. Any questions about this one? We're okay? Okay. So we are going to go ahead and move into, and I'm going to I'm going to give you like a few minutes to read this. What do teens say about how they would like us to communicate with them? So I'll just give you a few minutes to read it. Okay, any questions about this particular slide before I move on to the next one? We're okay? Okay. So the next slide is tips on actually how to do effective communication. So I'm going to go ahead and also give you a couple of minutes to read through it.
Could you explain the slide a little bit?
Which one?
What teens say?
This one here.
No, the last one.
Don't
Yeah,
talk
this
to
one.
our friends about us. Yeah,
This one.
you mean explain the slide?
Yeah.
Okay. So these are all different different requests from the teens to us parents in terms of like how they would like us to talk to them. Was there one in particular you would like me to elaborate
No,
on?
this is what they say to us or they expect from us.
Yeah, they say to us and they expect from us not to lecture them. And when we talk, we make it very short and sweet, and we talk with honesty, and we try and compromise with them rather than say that my way or the highway, and we don't talk down to them. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yes. Any questions about any one in particular?
What do you mean by skip the 20 questions?
Okay.
I'm
It's
sorry, I'm from a different culture. I'm not familiar with, the
no.
vocabulary.
I really, really appreciate that you're actually asking. Thank you. That's very important. And I really appreciate that you're asking. So skip the 20 questions is basically that parents, what they do is they do a lot of interrogation. They keep asking so many different detailed questions. Okay, when did you go? What time did you arrive? And who was there? And were there girls there too? And give me the names of all the boys who were with you sitting at that table. And what did you eat? And how much did you pay? And then and then what did you say? You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like interrogation.
It's just like too many questions that are yani if we as adults were to get all these detailed questions about a specific scenario, we will be upset and frustrated and angry. So so that's what they mean by skip the 20 questions. And that doesn't mean that we are abandoning our responsibility as parents. It doesn't mean we're not checking in with them. We we can check in with them, but without the interrogation.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Sister, there was a question in the chat. I guess it's referring to don't repeat yourself. Shouldn't we repeat ourselves to avoid miscommunication?
Very good question. So what teens tell us is, and actually, by the way, this applies even to younger kids, believe it or not, that they heard us the first time. But what happens is we keep repeating it again and again and again. So and of course, it's very hard for me to kind of like explain this without giving a context. For example, let me give an example, random example. A lot of parents worry about teens praying. So then, for example, the parent will tell me, I don't think my Khalid is praying. So I ask her, so what do you do? She says, okay, so when it's time for when he gets home, I ask him, did you pray? And then he says no. So and then I say, okay, go ahead and pray. And then 10 minutes later, did you pray? And then he says, I'm just gonna go pray later. And then she says, did you pray in another 10 minutes? So just repeating. And they heard us the first time. So I'm going to say it now because the prayer issue comes up again. So Ask the first time if you want to ask about, did you pray or not pray, even though I don't recommend that. Did you pray? I didn't, and I'm going to go pray in 10 minutes. Then let it be. You've done your part. You've reminded. Khalas, that's it. But not to nag, 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 nag. The same thing again and again and again. And then what happens when we do that is our teens actually disconnect from us. And you know how some of you said in the when we were brainstorming how they communicate with us, when we nag, that actually adds to them not trusting us, because our nagging is like, basically telling them, you are not capable, you cannot do it, and I need to nag you, and I need to keep repeating myself because I want you to do it in one specific way. Okay, any other questions about this?
There's a follow-up question that says, how do we teach them empathy and not guilt them at the same time when telling them our side if we are hurt?
That's a big question, because I typically find what parents do is they actually use their own emotions. The parents use their emotion to actually guilt trip the child. But so I'll tell you, I'll share with you how it's happening. For example, a parent says to the child, look what you have made me do. Look how you made me yell at you because you don't listen to me. Okay, so this is how we guilt trip children. Let me share with you the assertive way of talking about this particular situation without guilt tripping the child. It would be something like, I'm very angry right now because I keep telling you, or I ask you to do this and you're not listening to me, and I need to go and calm down. Can you see the difference between look what you have made me do to I am feeling angry and I need to go and calm myself down? Huge difference. So that is related to the guilt tripping. Empathy is, I really truly believe it, in terms of if we are extending empathy to our children, they will actually pick it up from us. So what does empathy look like? It means really understanding their situation. For example, and it doesn't mean you have to let go of your values. It doesn't mean you have to let go of your limits. No, but it means you understand how the situation is really difficult for them. So I'll give you a very small example about that. So when I had one of my children, he when he would go to when he was going to kindergarten, he used to love to make what we call, in the Arab culture, we have something called za'atar. So I would make za'atar sandwiches for him, and he would take it as lunch to the school. And then one day he told me, and he loved za'atar sandwiches. One day he came and he told me, Mom, don't make me any more za'atar sandwiches. And I said, why? What's happening? And he said, because the kids at school are making fun of me because they don't know what the za'atar is. And so they're making fun of me. And he was in an Islamic school, by the way. So let's not think he was in a non-Islamic school. So the empathic response in this situation is where I told him, oh, I understand. Okay, no more. We're not going to worry about it. I'm not going to make za'atar sandwiches for you. Versus a parent who would say, oh no, you have to be strong and you have to stand up to them and you have to tell them this is your from your culture, and you need to be proud of your culture, and da 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 da. So the empathy, teaching them empathy, comes from us, beginning with understanding what they are going through and how difficult things are for them in specific situations, and communicating together on how we can find a solution that also respects our values and our limits. So I hope this, inshallah, was clear. Okay, are we ready to move on to the next slide, inshallah?
There was one more question.
Uh-huh.
For the praying example, what if he didn't pray even after you reminded him?
I know the praying example is a very difficult example for many parents, and that's why I actually mention it, because this is me and what I invite parents to consider. I want you to consider that the we want to get to the place where the prayer is the teen know that the prayer is their responsibility, not yours. Your job as a parent is to begin teaching prayer from the age of 7, and to actually hopefully be doing group prayers at home, so that the child knows that this is what we do at home. They see you, you see the parents praying. So this is the environment they grow up in. But it's very important not to make the prayer a reason for us to disconnect. If we find that we are battling over the prayer a lot in our home, I would invite parents to sit down with the child, the teen, and say something like, I have noticed that you are not as diligent about your prayers. And prayers are very important to me. I'm talking about me as a parent. So that's what I'm going to tell my teen. Prayers are very important to me because they are one of the pillars in Islam. And I want you to know that the responsibility of praying is on you. You are the one responsible for doing your prayers. Is there anything I can do to help you so you can pray diligently? And then let's listen to what the teen has to say. But we need to get out of this tension. And we need to make it very clear that it's on them. I hope this is clear. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. In here, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to kind of like read through what are some tips for how can you communicate more effectively with your teen. So 2 minutes to read, inshallah. Okay, questions about the tips for effective communication?
Sister, I think, these are good, but if you can discuss a little bit and give example, that will make more sense to us, at least to me.
Yeah. No, I fully understand. We're going to actually do more in the second half after the break. I'm going to focus a lot on the joint problem solving, and it will address many of this. But if you have a very specific question about any one of them, ask me.
I have question almost to everyone. For example, let's make a deal. I don't know what do you mean by deal. If you can give example, let's negotiate. It doesn't make so it varies culture to culture. So if you can discuss each of them very briefly with an example, that would be very helpful to us. At least for me.
Yeah, sure. So most of these are meant as actually conversation starters. They're not meant as a strategy by itself. Okay, it's meant as we're gonna say this, and then we're gonna have a conversation. And and okay, so let's see how far we can go until the break, and then we'll stop at the break. So we have about 9 minutes. So let's make a deal. For example, and I don't have really ready examples in my head. I'm just gonna think of them as I'm reading them for you. Let's make a deal. For example, what comes to my mind, and that's exactly what I did with my one of my teens, because she used to be late going to school sometimes, and then when she would go late to school, then I have to call the school office and I have to excuse her. So then it's not marked against her. And when I started noticing that, she's waking up late frequently, we sat down together and I said, let's make a deal. I said, I am willing to excuse your tardiness or your lateness to school 3 times a semester. After the 3rd time in the semester, I am not going to excuse your tardiness. And then you will just have to deal with whatever the school does for that. So this is an example of let's make a deal. Here is how we do it. Is your teen, for example, doesn't know how to use the washer or the dryer, and you have asked them to actually start washing and doing their laundry. So you ask them for a time when they can actually they are willing to sit with you, and so they learn, this is how we do it, this is how we use the washer, this is how we use the dryer. Let's negotiate. Your teen is, for example, nagging you because he or she wants to have a later curfew. So you say, let's sit down and negotiate. I want to hear what you have to say. You will hear what I have to say, and then we're going to negotiate a new curfew. Would you be willing to? Would you be willing to listen to my fears about this topic, whatever it could be? This is one way. I look at it differently. Want to hear my view? Is, for example, I'm trying to think of an example for you. Your teen, and this happens, okay, no, I'm not going to use this example. Okay. Your teen comes and tells you that I don't need to sleep 9 hours. Okay. And you say, okay, that's your opinion, and I see it differently. Do you want to hear my opinion about it? And maybe we can actually, I can share with you actually my resources for sleep time. An example of in our house, we put the phones and the laptops in my room before we go to bed. We can listen to each other without agreeing. That's kind of like a principle. Like sometimes we do not need to get to a point where we are all agreeing, like the parents and the teens are agreeing on the same point. They can have their own point of view. We don't need to keep at it until one of us convinces the other. And of course, that doesn't mean, again, that the parent is not going to put limits in place. So we can disagree, but then for example, the curfew. So the teen wants a curfew of 12 midnight. The parent doesn't wants a curfew of 11. So after listening, and then we can say, we're going to or we begin actually by listening. We're going to say we're going to listen to each other, but we don't have to agree. And then because I am the parent, I'm going to ultimately make the decision about the curfew, but I want to listen to what you have to say about it. Tuesday this is just a beginning sentence to set a limit. So for example, Tuesday is laundry day, which means if your clothes are not in the hamper, your clothes are not going to be washed. Time for, again, at the beginning, these are all, again, starters. So now it's time for dinner, not video games. Number 10, if I find that, I will. So for example, if I find your let's say if I find your if I find your clothes thrown on the floor, then I will, and you figure out what you're gonna do with it. Or you're gonna maybe leave it in the floor, which I highly, highly recommend, by the way. Don't pick up after your teens. If I find your clothes on the floor, I will not pick them up and they will not be washed. Let's do this way until we have time to work out a plan that we all like. It could be for anything. So you say, for example, we're gonna have the curfew at 10 until we can agree to something else. Let's try this out for a day, week, month, or whatever, and then reevaluate. It's gonna come up later on in the joint problem solving. And then let's start with the set curfew and change it as needed. I think it's clear. And when you have, then we will provide, for example, some parents would say, when you have the down payment to buy a car, then we can provide you, or we can go for shopping for a car. Or you may drive our car or borrow our clothes as long as you bring them back on time, as long as you bring my clothes clean, as long as I see my sweater in my closet. Otherwise, I will have to say no to you borrowing these things until we are ready, until I feel ready to try again with you. So I'm giving you a chance to prove to yourself that you're gonna respect my limits. And if not, then I'm not gonna actually allow you to borrow the clothes or car, whatever, what have you. Is it, I hope, clear, brother?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Okay, so what we're gonna do next is supposedly a communication activity. So just before the break, let me ask, is there anyone willing to actually participate in the activity? What I need is 2 people. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna actually read statements. So if you are willing to participate, I will send you the statements in the chat. And then when we come back from break, we can do the activity. So let me actually stop sharing, and then we can see if we have anyone who is willing. If anyone is willing to participate, can you please raise your hand in the participant window?
I don't know how to raise my hand, but I can participate.
Mariam. And okay, so we have Mariam and Amira. I saw Amira, Mustafa, and Mariam. Okay, great. So we are due for a break right now. So I'm gonna send Mariam and Amira, I'm gonna send you both the sheet with the statements, and then I'll tell you what we are going to do, inshallah, after we come back from, I'm gonna send it to you in the chat, guys. And after we come back from break, which is 15 minutes, so inshallah we'll be back at, what time is it in Tampa? Sorry, we'll be back.
It's 8:30 right now, so 8:45 inshallah, everyone. We'll start back.
Okay, inshallah. Okay, I'll see you guys in 15 minutes, inshallah.
All right. Could you narrow it down a little bit? Like in general, I could tell it seemed like you both sides have the same end result in mind, but they're very different approaches.
Okay, so what did you notice about the different approaches?
One sounded like a parent and one sounded like someone intelligent talking to you.
No, Robbie.
I'll be honest, because typically that's how we are with our kids. We're just like, you're my kid, I expect you to do what I say. I don't need to justify myself. Versus like, okay, there's someone in front of me that I'm gonna try and rationalize with. I don't think we typically do that.
Okay, so when you are responding to a person who's actually kind of treating you in a rational way, okay, how did you feel about that? Like, what was the impact on you?
I think it makes you feel respected.
Respected.
Like that, yeah, you're talking to me like a person, like an adult.
Okay, you're talking to me like a person, like an adult.
I'm 14, I'm an adult. I'm a grown man.
You know, actually, we didn't mention this, but I want to really emphasize this. Like in Islam, puberty is the mark of adulthood. It's only in our societies nowadays that we actually extend childhood and make this special years of teens. But in Islamically point of view, I mean, we have girls who reach puberty at the age of 9.
Yeah.
And they are khalas, they are, it's a, and I know Allah understands the situation. He's not going to be expecting, them to behave perfectly at the age of 9. But still, I wanted to emphasize the difference between the Islamic perspective and the common global perspective of childhood, extending childhood to the age of 25. Islamically, that's not the case. Okay, so coming back to you, Rami. So you felt respected, okay, and seen as a person, as an individual. Okay, anything else that came up for you?
Talk to me, don't talk at me.
So one group of statements was talk to me. Okay, and how about your decisions? Like, are there are you gonna have, are there 2 different decisions about the 2 different parents you had talking to you?
Like how I felt about them?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of them I like, one of them I don't like. One of them is interacting with me, wanting me to think about something or see, maybe entertain how I think about something. The other ones just tell me, this is what you got to do, so do it.
Yeah. And so when you don't like a parent, then you could possibly, for example, disconnect from them.
Yeah, I don't like being told what to do.
You don't like, and so then you're not going to collaborate.
I'm not gonna listen.
You're not going to listen. Wow, it's even more than collaborate. You're going to rebel. Okay, that's okay. Anything else you want to share before I process with Amira and Mariam?
I think if you talk to me in a hostile way, it's gonna make me very defensive, and we're not gonna get anywhere.
Yeah.
Versus, how about you hear what I want to do or why I don't want to do this, or
and then so communication will end if I'm disrespected, and if I am feeling that you are, or thinking you are talking to me in a hostile way. Why would I come to you and talk to you and tell you what's going on with me if my experience with you is that you are hostile with me?
Yeah, if every single time I do something wrong and I tell you, I get in trouble, and maybe I just don't tell you.
Of course, I'm not going to tell you because I'm going to get in trouble. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Rami. So now let's check in with Amira and Mariam. Okay. And either one of you can start. What came up for you thinking, feeling, and deciding as you are sharing these statements?
I personally felt like it's a good reflection on how easy we can, like Rami said, it's like the typical parent, like we tend to gravitate towards those reactions. But as I was doing it, it reminded me of the fight or flight reflexes. When we're being talked to in that same manner, we're gonna obviously jump to our instinct and either argue back, or we're going to deflect and go internal and shut down. So it seems very counterproductive, but it's definitely something as a parent we have to constantly remind ourselves so that we don't fall back into these same, harmful cycles.
And it's not easy. So let me say this, okay? So I'm not gonna pretend and tell you guys that, oh, now you took this workshop, halas, mashallah, you're gonna just have no problems and no mistakes with your teens. No, that's not the reality. This is just, hopefully it will nudge you maybe to change something very little, because this is what we look for in changes in parenting. We do not look at major big changes. We look at small changes, and small changes accumulate, and then they end up having a big shift in the family. So Amira, how did you feel as you were saying these statements? And, go ahead.
It doesn't make you feel very good, because then it kind of reminds you that you almost feel like a dictator.
Okay, so that's the thought or the description of the situation, but the feeling is more of like, were you tense? Were you upset? Were you angry? Were you happy? Were you glad? So, what is the feeling?
I think it definitely builds up frustration.
Okay,
So like your tone definitely accentuates your anger, I
inner
think.
state.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
okay.
like
Thank
as you saw, like it came so much more naturally because it was just like that aggression came as you were saying the words.
Yeah,
Like it amplified it.
yeah. Thank you, Amira. Okay, Mariam, Habibti, reflections. Your reflections.
On just my part.
Yeah, or you know, you can do on anything.
Well, I
Okay.
mean, just going back and forth between the two kind of was real for me because I kind of like flip-flop between both as a parent
Mhm,
because I know I should be doing the first list and
mhm,
I do sometimes, but a lot of times I'm not. I'm doing the other list. So they both like sounded very real to me, and I do them at different, like I obviously the first one which I was saying is like I like that it makes me feel like I'm putting the responsibility on my child.
mhm.
And for me, one of my biggest struggle is actually having my children hear me. Like they're always so engaged in what they're doing that I am like I don't know if they pretend not to hear or they genuinely like can't, but like it's very hard to get them to actually pay attention to it. So when
Listen.
it's just an order, I don't think they even acknowledge it, as opposed to those are questions where they usually like you would pause and wait for them to answer, and then in that part they're actually an active participant in that when they says when I ask them when are you going to start your homework, as opposed to me just yelling start your homework and then they just continue, he continues talking to his brother, as opposed to saying when are you going to start your homework, so then he has to pause and say in 10 minutes. So like
Mm.
I feel like I get them engaged more, I get more success in this method, but also it's so easy to get frustrated and end up just yelling the instructions.
100%. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
just being a real parent. But then ultimately, as I said earlier, and I'm gonna emphasize it again, it's a formula, guys. You know, no parent is perfect. But the child, what the child is going to retain when the child becomes an adult is what was the balance of the formula? Is it positive or is it negative? So are the interactions more on the positive side? And I'm not talking about not setting limits, because you can be positive while you're also setting limits by saying, for example, something like, I love you, and the answer is no. That's a positive interaction, by the way. Because why? Because it's basically being firm, but at the same time you're not yelling and screaming and demeaning and humiliating and so on. And the children, even teenagers, they need limits. They do need it because they feel safe. And I remember one time one of my girls was talking to someone, and she's like on the phone, and she's like, she's covering the phone, and she's like, mommy, just tell me no, just tell me no. Just tell me no. I said no. And then basically she wanted to tell their friend, I cannot do this because mama said no. So it's like they do need limits, guys. So, and we are the people who are going to provide those limits. Okay. So thank you, Mariam. Thank you, Amira, so much for sharing. And I wanted to see if there is basically what we did, guys. And by the way, I am going to send you a file that has the statements that you just heard. And no, I don't think I have those statements, but it's going to have the communication tips that you saw on the slide. So there is a file that has a few pages that I think you are going to actually find beneficial, inshallah, for you. So any comments from the group about this particular activity? What we were doing is highlighting to you the difference between when we order our children by telling telling them do this, do this, do this, versus the same message but asking a question. And in many situations, I'm not saying in all situations, but in many situations, that kind of approach minimizes the tension, minimizes the battles, and gets the teens to actually begin to be more independent and reflective on what they are doing. So any questions about this? We're okay? Um, Okay, so we are going to go back now to sharing the screen. And let's go ahead. So I'm going to start talking about the joint problem solving. So I'm going to skip actually a few of the slides that I had because I want to give enough time for this particular process. What do we mean by joint problem solving? We mean that there is a problem that is joint between the teen and the parent. So it actually impacts both of them. So it's not a problem that impacts only the teen, for example. It actually impacts both of them. And so I'm going to present to you a way whereby you can sit with your teenager and talk and process how to actually find a solution. Maybe you're going to find a temporary solution, not find a permanent solution, but that's a beginning. So these are the steps. You begin, and this is what we don't usually do. You need to begin with listening to the teen's point of view. Usually what we do is we begin with our point of view. And once we have started with our point of view, the teen has already zoned us out and tuned us out, and we're not going to get any back and forth communication. So first thing, we're going to listen to the teen. We're going to summarize what he or she said and then repeat it back to them. Check in with them and see if they actually have, if I have actually, or we have actually heard them well. Then we move into sharing our view. And then the teen has to summarize and repeat what we have said. We need to share appreciations and then work out an agreement. So this is in bullet points how we are going to do this process. Now I'm going to actually share with you details. So what does listening to the teen mean? It means saying something like, I noticed, whatever it is. And we're going to do a real life situation in a minute. I just want to go through how it's done. And then I'm going to ask for a volunteer who is going to role play a teen. And I'm going to role play the parent who is responding in this particular way of joint problem solving. So I noticed, and I would like if we can work out another way to deal with this, so that a way that we can both live with. And then so we ask the teen, what is your view of the problem and how do you feel about it? We listen, no interruptions, no arguments. And we keep asking, is there more? Is there anything else? After we listen completely to the teen and he says, no, I'm done, or she says, I'm done, there's nothing more I want to say about it, then we summarize what we heard by using the magic formula, you feel, because, and you wish. And then after we repeat everything that the teen have said, we check in and ask, did I understand your point of view? Did I get you? Only after the teen says, yes, you got me, then we say, are you willing to hear my point of view and my feelings? And then we share our point of view using also the magic formula, I feel, because, and I wish. Then after we finish talking, the teen summarizes. And after that, we do appreciate the teen for sharing his or her thoughts and feelings. After that, we ask, are we close to an agreement or are we too far? We still, we're not very close to an agreement. If we are close to an agreement, we ask the teen for a suggestion. Or we can even suggest something and say, are you willing to try this for a day or a week? If we're not close to an agreement, then we both sit down and write down or brainstorm ideas that will help with the situation. We write all ideas, even the ones we don't like, but it doesn't mean we have to agree to do them. So ultimately, after we write all the ideas, we choose one that we both can live with, one that we can both agree to trying for a day or a week, depending on the situation. And then the last thing is we agree on a day to actually review what we discussed and the problem and how we are working on solving it. And we end by sharing appreciations. So this is called the joint problem solving process. It is very important that it's only done in situations where there is a joint problem. It's not like it's the problem of me or for me or a problem for the teen. So is there anyone who would like to role play with me a situation, and we can so the person will pretend that they are actually a teen, and there is a problem, and we are going to work through it using the steps that I just shared with you. So who's willing?
I mean, if no one else will do it, I'll do it with you.
Mariam. Anyone else wanted to volunteer, or shall Mariam do it with me? خلاص, Mariam? Okay. Mariam, so we want to see you.
Oh, sorry. One second.
No, it's okay. You're fine, Habibti. طيب. Okay, so let's agree on, first of all, what's the problem? What is the problem going to be? Make up any problem that's relevant to the teens.
Oh, um, how much screen time
Oh my
on school
God.
days?
Yeah. Whoa, that's a big problem. 100%. Yes. Okay. And so just so we are clear on this one, are we in a household where we actually have rules, or are we in a household where there are no rules whatsoever on screen? Just so I know how to handle the conversation.
Oh, there's rules, but I'd like to extend them.
Okay, so there are rules already. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's figure out what are the rules before we actually have our conversation. What are the rules that we have at home already?
So no screen time on weekdays, only screen time on weekends.
That's a very good, yes, because that's actually common. Well, not common, actually. What's common, unfortunately, and I'm going to say it very clearly to all of you here, unfortunately, I am seeing what is more common is parents letting go of their responsibility and letting go of their control over screen times. And they come and tell me, oh, we can't do anything about it. They cry and they nag. And I'm like, you are the parents. You're the one who's paying the bills. You are the one who have, I don't know. So it really breaks my heart. But anyway, okay, so this is a household that have rules. Teens cannot use the so let's make it even more specific. So they can't actually use what? Because
I don't know, video games maybe?
Video games. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so they can't do video games during the week, and they only do it on the weekend.
Yep.
Okay, so then you actually as a teen are coming to me because you want to extend your time, because there's no problem right now. I don't have a problem as a parent.
Yeah, because it's quarantine and all my sport activities are canceled.
Okay.
So now I'm like, after homework, why can't I play video games?
Okay, very good. Okay, so then we're not gonna begin with I notice, because I don't have a problem. I'm not noticing a problem as a parent. What we're gonna begin here with is the teen coming to the parent and asking for a change. Okay, so go ahead, Mariam, and start.
Okay. Oh, well, I think it's not fair that we still have the same rule we had before quarantine. I finished my homework very quick and I'm very bored, and all my other friends are online and chatting with each other and playing the video games, and I'm the only one not allowed to.
Okay, so let me see. Okay, so your concern, okay, or your complaint is you want to change the limits or the rule about playing video games during the week. That's what
Yes.
you want.
Yes.
Okay, and what I'm hearing from you is that all your friends are playing video games during the week, and you are not, and you're the only one who's not playing video games during the week.
Yes.
Okay. I think I heard something else about homework too. What did you say
Like,
about
I'm
that?
finishing my homework. It's not like I'm not doing it. I just finish it and then I have free time. So why can't I play?
Okay. So give me an idea about what is your proposal for playing video games during the week. How does it look like?
Well, I guess I'll start with my homework, and then once I'm done,
Mhm.
and we already have a bedtime, so
Mhm.
basically I can get that time between when I'm done with my homework and bedtime, I can use it for video games.
Okay, so I'm writing as you are speaking because we need to, this is serious. This is a serious conversation. Okay, so what you are suggesting is you finish your homework, okay? And then you actually keep playing video games from the time you finish homework until bedtime.
Yeah, that's what everybody's doing, so.
Okay, so give me an example like yesterday. What time did you finish your homework yesterday?
Well, I finished at like 4:30.
Okay, and what time is our bedtime?
I don't know when the teens sleep. My kids sleep really early. Um,
Just
9:30, 10.
okay. Okay. So you're saying you would like to play from 4:30 until 9:30 p.m.
I mean, I'll stop for dinner. I can come for family dinner.
Okay. So you will stop for family dinner. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that you care about being with us for dinner. Okay. But still, we're looking at from 4:30, for example, to 6, and then from 7 to 9:30. So let's figure out how many hours is that. How many hours is that, Mariam?
What did you say? 4:30 to 6. That's an hour and a half, and then 7. So 2.5, 3, 4 hours.
Okay, so 4 hours every day. Yeah. And what are my objections to video games?
Well, obviously you think they're a waste of time and probably they're useless and they're not really teaching me any skills and they might hurt my brain or eyes or whatever. But they're really fun and they need skill and I'm really good at it.
Okay. So you believe that I think video games are a waste of time and useless and they're not teaching you anything, but you believe that they're actually teaching you skills.
Yeah,
And you
I'm
are
very
and you're very good at it.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, so what you're proposing is adding 4 hours of video games every day. Okay. Anything else you want to tell me about that? Any other thing?
No.
Okay. So I really appreciate that you came to me and you're asking me to reassess the video game situation at home during the week, I mean. And honestly, I am okay with you playing video games on the weekdays. I'm not okay with the 4 hours, though.
What how much are you okay with?
So this is I'm talking to the teen. So before you ask me this question, Mariam, I need you to repeat what I said to you.
So you're saying that you're okay with changing the rules about the video games during the week, but you're not okay with the amount I'm asking.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I'm not okay with the amount. Yeah. So we need to kind of like, so it seems like we are somewhat in agreement because we're agreement on changing the rule, but we're not in agreement on the time.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I am okay with you playing an hour every day on the weekdays.
But an hour isn't enough. You can barely like start and you can't just stop after an hour. Nobody does that.
It's tough. I know. It's really tough.
Like it'll be ridiculous. I won't get to any extra level. It'll be just like turning it on and then logging off after an hour. It just makes no sense.
So for you, 1 hour seems like very little.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense to you. It's not going to allow you to actually go into the next level. And I'm sensing like you're telling me that you're not going to enjoy it as much.
Yeah. There's no point of playing just for an hour.
Okay. So what do you prefer? That you try to play for 1 hour every day for the next week, or you prefer that we reschedule this conversation for another time?
No, I can try the hour.
Okay, so you will try an hour every day, and then we can reassess at the end of the week and see.
Yes, we can do that.
Because I also need to assess if you are kind of like working with me in terms of respecting the rules about the video games.
Okay.
Yeah. So are we in agreement now?
Well, yeah, I still think it's very little, but we can try.
I know. Yeah. From your point of view, it is very little. Yes, I'm not gonna try to change your opinion about it. I understand that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we're in agreement. We're gonna try it for 1 hour every day and reassess after a week and see what's going on. Okay. Okay, Mariam, thank you. So any reflections on how was this for you, Mariam, as we were going through it?
Well, I was honestly very, very surprised how open you were to like hearing. So
Okay.
you were like 4 hours, like you were like so surprised and shocked and like, I mean, scandalized by the prospects. You were like very calm, collected. So,
Okay.
so yeah, I felt like you heard me and you were, flexible and willing to try something new. But you were also firm in the sense that when you said like you're not willing to do 4 hours, you kind of stuck with it. So I felt like it was fair. I didn't get exactly what I wanted, but I got something.
Yeah. Okay. So would you feel that comfortable coming to me again with something else and communicating with me
Like
about
when I
something else?
complained or something, I didn't feel like you didn't like I didn't feel the need to like start talking back because you didn't like like if I said something, if I complained, oh, that doesn't make sense, you heard me, you said, okay, I understand that you feel that way. So it honestly took the chance for me to like fire back or like talk back and say, well, you don't understand, because like you were very understanding.
Yeah. So when somebody, this is for everyone in the group, when somebody asked about how do we teach kids empathy? This is an example of how we teach kids empathy. So I didn't come at her and say, are you crazy, 4 hours? What do you mean 4 hours? And I talk to you about video games. That would be not teaching empathy. So understanding her situation, she's alone. All her kids or all her friends are playing video games. She wants to feel part of the group. And this is such it's an essential need for teens. And that doesn't mean we're going to allow them to be part of a group that is dysfunctional, but it means we are going to maybe allow them to do things we personally are not comfortable with, but they are still benign. Like, for example, when my daughter wanted to go to the winter dance, and to me, I'm like, wow, why would you go to the winter dance? Really? I'm like, and then she talked to me and she's like, Mom, we go and there is arcades there and we play games. And I'm not going to be dancing. So the communication opened up the door for me to understand, okay, it's not something I would be very comfortable with, but she made it clear she is going to respect her boundaries, her Islamic boundaries, but she wanted to be part of the group. And so anything else you would like to share, Mariam?
No, I just have a question. So like when you show empathy, but like you don't always have to give them what they wanted, but like, is it enough just to show that I hear that it's a struggle? Like if you have like very strict, let's say like you have very strict screen standards at home, or like the fact that you don't want to give your teen a phone. So your teen comes and complains that like everybody has a phone, I'm so left out. So, but you're not willing to give them a phone. Like bottom line is you're not going to budge.
Sure.
will it make a difference just to say like I understand? Like, what difference will it make though? Will they feel like you kind of gave me hope by showing you understand, but then you didn't change your mind?
No, I'm not giving hope.
Okay.
I'm not giving hope that I'm going to change my mind. But all I'm saying is I understand that this is hard for you. I understand that you feel left out. I understand that you would like to do what they're doing. But in our family, this is what our family does.
Okay.
And I know it's hard for you, but I know you can handle it.
Okay.
And so a very good question, Mariam, because it's very empathy doesn't mean we are gonna give them what they want. Empathy just simply means I understand how hard it is for you, but still the rules and the boundaries are what they are.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Jazakallah khair.
Thank you, Mariam.
You're
Jazakillah
welcome.
khair,
You're
habibti.
welcome.
Yeah. So from the group, any questions about the joint problem solving process? Any questions about that?
I have a
I have a
question.
question.
Okay.
Go ahead, brother. You can go first.
That's all right. Go ahead.
I mean, how do you get to the point with your child to be capable of having those to a like that communication you had with Mariam seemed very, I mean, it flowed very well, but when you're dealing with actual children and they're in a heightened emotional state or they're frustrated and they're only seeing what they want, how do you keep them on track and focused on the conversation in the way that you did?
So definitely if a child or if a teen is being reactive as we are talking and discussing, two things. Number one, I'm going to ask myself, am I actually talking in a way that is raising their hackles and having them be defensive? Am I triggering that reactivity? Okay. Because, sometimes I get parents and they tell me, oh, I do this with my kids all the time, but that's not how they respond. And then I ask them, okay, so tell me how you talk to your kids. And they tell me how they talk. And it's not what I just did with Mariam. It's completely different. It's more like video games are not good for you. And I told you it a million times. This is not, what we're going to, completely as if, two completely different conversations. So number one is I need to be honest with myself and ask and check in with myself. Am I triggering that reactivity? That's number one. Number two, whether I triggered it or I didn't trigger it, if the teen is reactive, if the teen has flipped their lid, if they are actually yelling at me or screaming at me, I need to respect myself. And respecting myself means I'm not going to sit there and I'm not going to lecture and say, oh, you need to respect me. I'm going to say something like, when you know how to talk to me, come and find me. And I leave the situation. I don't sit and engage in disrespect. This is something that unfortunately I find a lot in parents with teens. They engage with disrespect. They don't just, it happens, boom, no more communication until you know how to talk to me. And they actually know how to talk to you. It's just that we don't put the limit down in terms of like, I'm not going to accept that. This is not acceptable. I'm not going to lecture. I'm not going to nag. I'm not going to, I'm just going to say, end of conversation right now, because we are not engaging in a respectful conversation. When you have calmed down, when you know how to talk to me with respect, we can continue this conversation. I'm also going to say, I know I presented like this ideal way of talking to teens. I know though that if you actually follow the steps as they are, you actually follow the formulas as they are. And Brother Hassan, I sent you the file. If you can kindly actually send it to everybody in the chat so they can download it. So this is the file that has the steps I just did with Mariam. So I know that if you follow the steps as they are, really teens are more willing to actually collaborate with you and listen to you And again, at any given moment, if there is reactivity, you stop the conversation. I'm also going to add, this is only one piece of the puzzle. We were today focusing only on the communication piece, but there are so many other pieces in the puzzle of the relationship between the parent and the teens. And it includes also seeing the teens for who they are, appreciating them, encouraging them, connecting with them. Are we spending time with them outside of, just lecturing and criticizing them? There's so many pieces to our relationship with them. So, and the other thing also I'm going to mention for some of you, if you are in a situation where where your relationship with your teen is really not that great, baby steps. You need to start small and focus on what you actually can do very easily. Begin there. Choose your battles. It's very important to choose battles with teens. We cannot fight all battles with teens. And every family has its hierarchy of what is important to fight, which battles they have to address in the household. And so every family has to decide what it is. So I hope I answered the question somewhat. Inshallah khair. Okay, any other questions? I would also say take parenting classes. Guys, please take parenting classes. Please read parenting books. Okay, everything can give you ideas on how to actually change some of the dynamic that you have with your children. And it's never too late. So even if you think you have made so many mistakes with your children, it's never, ever too late to start something different and to shift the dynamics in your family. We have 4 minutes.
Question?
Sorry?
Can I ask you a question?
Oh, please go ahead.
Okay, yes. My question is, what if the teen starts negotiating with you instead of 1 week? They say, like, what about, like, 2 days, or maybe instead of 1 hour, say, like, maybe 2 hours? How do you deal with that negotiation? And what if you, like, you're in conversation with one teen and your other child, who's also a teen, they come to you and they start negotiating about their, like, whatever they want to. So how do you deal with that kind of situation?
So when we have come to an agreement and then the teen comes during the week and wants to change it. So very simple and very firmly, we say, we made an agreement. We're going to try it for a week for 1 hour. I will reassess with you at the end of the week. So I am not going to open the door for conversation. I have found that in families where the kids do a lot of negotiations and a lot of back and forth, it's because the parents are actually not firm enough. So the parents are sometimes maybe stating a rule, and then they allow for that exception here and there. And once the kids know that the parents are open for exceptions, like, oh, today it's okay to do 2 hours and tomorrow it's not okay to do 2 hours, they will nag you and they will argue with you to death. So whenever I hear that, I know that in that household, we need more firmness. And so we need, I'm inviting you to really stick to one rule and don't allow exceptions until the child gets to understand that you actually have shifted in how you are in handling these situations, because the child has an understanding, oh, mom or dad allows exceptions, all I have to do is just kind of like keep arguing and keep nagging and keep negotiating. Sometimes I get my way, and because sometimes I get my way, I'm just going to keep at it. So until they learn that your word and your statement is one and doesn't change, they're going to keep at it. So firmness, we need firmness here. And the second question is about if you are having a negotiation with or discussion with one teen and then another teen comes in, you look at the second teen and say, okay, I need to finish with your brother. I need to finish with your sister. Once I'm done, you and I can talk. So again, don't open the door for that. Don't engage with the second one when you're not done yet with the first one. I hope I answered your question. We have 1 minute left. Or actually, we don't have any more minutes. It's already 9:30 your time, guys. I highly encourage you, please, to do parenting classes, read parenting books. Don't give up on your ability to change the dynamics and the systems in your household. You can. You just have to put effort and time in it, and it's really 100% worth it. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant all of you